Really what we're focused on, we put about 120,000 meters of drilling into this project. It's still only 30 or 40% drilled. And so what our program is going to be over the next, 40,000 meters is really just expansion and step outs and upgrading of that, 85 million tons to trying to get that, 140 plus.
All right, welcome back inside our proactive newsroom. And joining me now is Chris Holden. He is the Senior Vice President of Corporate Development for Eloro Resources. And Chris, it's good to see you. How are you?
I'm well. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you at our OTC studios. We'll talk about why you're there in just a second. But first,
Sure.
maybe for those not familiar, tell me a bit about the company.
So we are a exploration and development mining company focused on the Iska Iska project in southern Bolivia. It is a polymetallic deposit, so lead, zinc, silver that sits atop a fairly substantial tin deposit that is underneath. So primary minerals are zinc, lead, silver, and tin, but we also have some secondary minerals because we sit on the tin belt in Bolivia, and that would be antimony, indium, and bismuth. So a lot of the key critical minerals that the US is looking for at the moment.
Yeah, ones that we're all getting familiar with these days. We hear a lot about them for sure. Tell me
Yeah.
a bit about Bolivia and working there. It's a good jurisdiction for mining, right?
Yeah, it's very prolific. There was 20 years of socialist involvement up to, early 2020, 2021 when we got involved in the project. And so there was a lack of capital that was brought into the country to really look and explore within the country for these minerals. Like if you look at it relative to Peru or to Chile or other South American companies that have very similar type of geology, it's completely underexplored. And so, there's been a change in the government. It's become more right wing. They're having some protests at the moment. But it's South America. You're always going to have some type of protest, and the U.S. is actively in the country trying to make it a better, political environment to help not only Bolivia but the U.S. in terms of minerals coming to the country, so we can be self-sufficient.
Yeah, let's talk about your project. I know that you've begun some expansion drilling there now after the MRE. So tell me a little bit about that drilling and what you're looking to do with it.
So when we our last MRE will come out with the final published report here in June, but there is a really nice high grade portion of the deposit that's indicated. It's about 85 million tons, 40 grams silver, 1.2% zinc. But really what we're focused on, we put about 120,000 meters of drilling into this project. It's still only 30 or 40% drilled. And so what our program is going to be over the next, 40,000 meters is really just expansion and step outs and upgrading of that, 85 million tons to trying to get that, 140 plus. And so that sets us up really nicely for not past really the PEA and pre-feasibility that we're planning to do PEA this year, but pre-feasibility next year. So
So would this drilling all be this year, or is that will extend into
So
2027
no,
as well?
the summit's going to go into 2027, just
Yeah.
given, the rigs are going to be start turning there this week. And so our goal is to really have 20,000 meters done by year end. And so
Okay.
get that incorporated into into another resource update or a PEA that we're planning on doing. So
Yeah, it's going to be a busy one for sure. Now, I mentioned you're in New York City at the OTC. Tell me a little bit about obviously the U.S. market is a key one, as you mentioned a bit earlier, and all the work that's going on in Bolivia.
yeah. So our largest shareholder is the US. It's Crescat Investments out of Denver. And so we think it's extremely important for us to have a presence in the US, whether that's through the OTCQX or potentially uplist in the future. But it's the key market to bring investors to the story. I think the critical mineral story and what's happening with whether it's the Department of War or other the acronyms that are using to get critical minerals into the US, it's extremely important for us to be at a show like this and do conferences to show what we have available to the US investor because that's the most important investor to us on a go forward basis.
Makes sense. Chris, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the city and appreciate your time as well. And we look forward to following your story. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Good stuff. This is Chris Holden, Senior Vice President of Corporate Development for Eloro Resources.